to start.
I'd only one notice that for tonight, which was that Dave, Gavine's cousin, had got in touch with Ken to say that his ashes would be interred in the family plot in the Eastern Cemetery in Dundee on Wednesday the 18th of March at 1 p.m. And they were keen to let everybody at the DAS know, because they were all welcome to come along if they could get. But David sent out an email with the time and the directions and where to meet and things.
What date's that?
The 18th is a Wednesday.
Oh, a little bit cataract over there.
Oh, no.
Oh, you should be all set.
Well, I've already had one done, so I had to take the Wednesday. So I'll get the other one done in a week and a half, just end of next week.
Well, we can do it for a year,
just wear the frame so they recognise you, you know. And you've got some sky notes for us a brief set later on.
That's some pictures after.
Yep. Yep. And Brian Kelly's got just a 10-minute presentation that he will add on after Jim's done his sky notes. But tonight we are very fortunate to be able to share some memories of Dave Gavine, which would be a lovely thing to have for all of us, and to be provided by two people who knew him so well and over, I think, fair to say, a fair period of time as well. So if we could welcome Ken Kennedy and Bill Samson for bringing the presentation to us.
Thanks, Julie. It's a difficult one because I feel quite sad being standing in front of you this evening out of Bill, I'm sure, but it should have been David Miles Gavine addressing you tonight as your honorary president. So in that respect I feel quite sad about having to be here, but I'm going to say a few words about Dave. It's sad to lose a friend of all these years. In my case, and many of you have known Dave for decades in the audience here, I've known Dave 62 years. It's a long time, and the amazing thing for me is we've kept in touch all these years. And in the last, quite a number of years, we've been on the phone at least weekly about all sorts of things. And it catches me 2 nights ago, it caught me 2 nights ago. I was out, a lovely clear night, you probably saw Venus and the crescent moon. And I looked up, having seen that, I looked up at Orion and I thought, oh look, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if you've looked at it, but Betelgeuse is looking brighter. It looks like it's coming back up again. There's no question, it's definitely brighter. Now, they mentioned on Space Weather, this mentioned on Space Weather that it had got a bit brighter, but I reckon 0.3, 0.4 magnitude, certainly, quite definitely brighter. And I thought, oh, Dave, I would have phoned Dave right away to say, hey Dave, have a look at Betelgeuse and see what you think, because my opinion is quite a bit brighter. So there's a gap, and it's very sad for our society to lose any president. We've had 3 presidents in our existence, but especially so for Dave, who was the instigator, the founder member, who got it all started. He was very proud of his society, and rightly so. We survived 64 years. He's proud of his society, which means he's proud of the members, all of you here, because you are the society. So without you, the society wouldn't exist. Without Dave creating society, you wouldn't be here. So it's a bittersweet thought that I'm going to say some things about his achievements, the honours he has had bestowed upon him, but also I'm going to treat it in a fairly light manner, because Dave said he knew what was happening in his illness, and he said he wanted any events afterwards to be tinged with humour all the way through. He said that to several people and to myself, and I said, okay, because Dave, some of you won't know Dave as some of us do know him. And you'll have seen one or two or three of the presentations he's given, the talks he's given, and the informal way he spoke, and the laid-back, amusing way he spoke. But he was like that right through his life, in all manner of things. And Dave and I have been to many places throughout the country in terms of astronomy, and we've had some right laughs. He was always up for a laugh. His humour you will see later in this presentation. So just to start with his achievements in terms of academia, and he was an academic in his own right, was that he gained the BSc at St Andrews in 1960. He was awarded the J.F. Scott Prize in Geology. I was very proud of that, which is great. Geology was a great thing. He did astronomy, geology, physics. And then at Aberdeen he did an MA in Geography in 1969. And then the Open University, his PhD in 1982. The PhD was interesting because Dave, I knew, was scouring the country for information. It was, of course, on astronomy in Scotland, 1745 to 1900. He scoured the country's libraries for information about people for years. And he said it was a hobby that had just gone too far. That's what he always said. He didn't really intend to go that far, but he gathered so much information. He had to write it down, so he may as well submit it for a PhD. So he was awarded a PhD in history of astronomy, which was amazing. So, I don't go back quite to the beginning of the DES, but he was our founder member. I go back 18 months after it started, and I don't have recollection of the very early days. I was only a young laddie. How old would I be? About 14 or 13 or something. Anyway, can we put the lights out, you think? It might be best now. This is Dave's, his own comments about this. He thought about the idea of having a Dundee, an astronomical society. He met up with an old school friend, Harry Ford. They'd been in school together. So Harry has known Dave longer than I have done. Both of them had friends who shared an interest in astronomy. So they formed Dundee Astronomical Society, a highly successful venture, and so it is. So it is. With Dave's charismatic physics teacher, Bill Dow. Do you remember Bill Dow? Yes. Wonderful chap. Fantastic. It was really. I was sorry I didn't have him as a physics teacher. As his first president, remember in these days the chairperson was the president. That's what they were called. What we have three of is our honorary presidents, because the president was then transferred to chairperson, and Dave as secretary. He took on the duty of secretary at that point. This was the earliest time, 1956, as I say, 63 years. And there's Dave and Harry. I've gathered dozens and dozens of pictures of Dave Gavine and, of course, some of the old people, the old guys. And I never throw out correspondence, so I've got, I don't know how many letters from Dave, because in these days there wasn't communication by email. We don't just flash off emails all over the place. But Dave would send letters from when he went up north and when he went to Edinburgh. And I've got piles of these letters, which are all hilarious, almost all of them, with cartoons, with added pictures put in. And I was looking at them after Dave passed away, and I was laughing. I was actually laughing, reminding myself of what he'd said in these letters. It was very therapeutic, and that's how I remember Dave. So there's Dave. I don't know how he got up to that telescope. I've always wondered about that. And Harry with his camera on the tripod. So these two, Dave was the instigator. He was in some ways the more theoretical of the two, and Harry was a very practical man, and he always has been. Great man for making things, telescopes. And Harry and I still get in touch we've been quite frequent recently since Dave's passing. But we keep in touch when he's way down the south of England. Now, I think they met in somebody's house initially. Now this isn't a tale, remember, about Dundee Astronomical Society. It's about Dave Gavine. And because he had other interests as well, I'm going to cover all of these. But Dundee Astronomical Society initially, when I joined up, it was a hut. The friends of Harry Ford were the, what would you call it, plot holders up at the Dundee Law, and they had a hut, a committee hut, and that's where we first met, where I first went. That's all that's left. I was up about a year ago looking for any sign, and it's down over that hump of weeds there. Where I'm standing must be just about where Tom Flood had his greenhouse, when we first looked through that 3-inch telescope, that brass telescope way back, and when I joined 58, the winter of 58, would huddle round his fire. But that's where it was, so not much to see, I'm afraid, which is a pity. The first meetings of the Society, and this is taken from the minutes. I've got a copy of the minutes. I think, Mike, you copied many of these.
Well, I made the copy.
Yeah, I've got all of these.
There's a file on that, yeah.
They're the office bearers for 1956-57. First years, President William Dow, Vice President Tom Flood, Secretary David Gavine, Director of Operations Frank Mitchell, Treasurer Harry Ford, Librarian John Clark for the first year. And you'll see how important to them the British Astronomical Association was, because they've got after them MBAA, Member of the British Astronomical Association. So we were involved with the BAA, or at least some of our members were, and of course that was way back in the 50s. There's Frank Mitchell, who I got to know very well, and Dave, as secretary in the mid-50s. Frank, Dave and I used to observe meteor showers frequently, the three of us. Frank lived just along the road, and when Dave left to go to Fort Augustus, Frank and I would spend nights and nights looking at Perseid meteors. And one night I think we counted 216. That's what our best between us. So there you are, that's Frank Mitchell, DFO. There's your predecessor, Jim.
And Jews.
And mine, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the first meeting of the Society, I'm not going to read this all to you, was 29th of August 1956. Dave as secretary, writing up the minutes, members present at the inaugural meeting, Frank Mitchell, and so on and so on and so on. Interesting, it says Frank Mitchell chaired it because Bill wasn't there at that time, and after he wasn't at that meeting, after welcoming the company, called upon the secretary, who as founder outlined the needs and aims for such an organisation, mainly to bring astronomers in the city closer together. And that's still, of course, the case, and outside the city, of course. And to circulate current information, and for the younger members to learn from the knowledge of the more experienced observers. Now I'll come back to that briefly, because in these days there were young members. I'm not saying very young here, but you're younger than I am possibly. But these days we had young members like myself joining up at, what, 15 or something when I started. You don't get this, you haven't had this for years in this society. Well, a whole lot of young lads joined up at that sort of age. We had a junior section which Dave promoted because of his knowledge. He would impart it to all of us, and Tom Flood would then take us up to his greenhouse with a 3-inch brass telescope and have a look at anything that was in the sky. So, just a little interesting bit I thought was so funny. It's great to go through these old minutes. Fabulous. After this was after all this, the office bearers were elected. The Vice President, Mr. Flood, then took over as chairman. Mr. Mitchell, Frank Mitchell, gave an excellent talk, and this is a good bit. Observational astronomy in all branches, aurora, zodiacal light, noctilucent light, and touched on unidentified flying objects, which figure frequently in the news. They did. So it's quite funny. We actually talked about flying saucers. And of course there we are, Dave Gavine, signed by Dave Gavine, who wrote that very first minute of the DES meeting. Now, I'm going to jump just slightly forward, just a year, to my own start in astronomy, because it's when I met Dave that everything became not clear, but did pretty well come clear. A comet had come along in 1957 called Aaron Roland, and I was keen to photograph this comet, to just record it. I was interested from about that age. This comet, going to be a bright comet, wow! So I went and got some film from Lindsay's in Castle Street, loaded up the camera, and it was too slow. I asked them what would be good for comets. Now you thought, they just should know what's good for comets, they're photographers, surely. And they gave me the slowest possible film. You see.
Barnett, was it?
It was like Planet, yeah, 50 hours.
Yeah.
But I assumed they would know what film to give me. And eventually I got my very first picture. And it did get a tail on it actually. That was taken at the top of Dundee Law, April 1957. I think that was the same night, if I'm not mistaken, as Patrick Moore started The Sky at Night, 25th of April 1957. So there you go. So the next thing was another comet. This is how I got into DES. Spot the new comet was in the paper. That's actually cut from the paper. I've kept it all these years. About a new comet, a Mercus 1957D, recently reported about the DES observers I saw. Who are these? Who's DES observers? Here was me, about 15-year-old laddie. Who's DES? So what did I do? Looked up Dundee directory. And there was Dundee Astronomical Society in the educational lists or whatever they were at the time. And there was the secretary, David Gavine. So we had an address there. So off I wrote to David Gavine to say, oh, I'm very interested in this comet and so on. David wrote back saying, yes, we've got meetings up at Dundee Law Allotments. Please do, feel free to join us. So that was my first communication with Dave way back in 1957. I then got round, that was in August of course, I got round to go to a meeting during the following winter. And there was, I found this in the minutes, the last meeting, the first meeting of 58, January 12th, 16 attended, 4 new members, Neil Cumming, me, and John Robertson, which some of you remember Jack Robertson. I haven't seen him for many years, but he used to be a regular attender. So there was my first introduction, and Mr. Gavine read an encouraging letter from Mr. Peyton, because by that time, 58, there were aurora brewing. 58, 59, International Geophysical Year. Dave was a very keen auroral observer, and I'd heard of the aurora from my dear old Auntie Mary. I mentioned my dear old Auntie Mary before to you. Amazing lady, weaver, jute weaver in Dundee, and she told me about the aurora when it was this height. I remembered that. So I was into aurora. I was out looking for these auroral things that were appearing in the sky, and wow, it was amazing. I had the impression it was aurora every night. Literally, it was either a glow or a blazing aurora. And of course then Dave and I and a few of us would go out and watch the aurora and make notes. Of course Dave would encourage me to record what I saw. This was the first indication. Remember, Dave was 20, so he was a big lad. I was a wee lad, and he was a big lad. And he knew all these things. So I took what he said.
Did you have a push bike with drop handlebars?
Do I?
That's what all the big boys used to have.
Ah, yes, yes. Next year I had a wee motorbike. That's going back a bit. Anyway, I hung on his every word because he would tell me about these aurora and what was happening and what was going on. And he was just so helpful and so encouraging. So what I did, I had no camera in these days. I want to record these aurora. What am I going to do? Okay, my idea. Soft pencil, this paper. Scribble on the paper so it's black, and then go out and look at the aurora with a rubber and rub out the pencil. To get the, that's all I can do. And these are the original pictures which I did in this way, scribbling black pencil and then rubbing it out and putting in occasional red bits when the red bits cropped up. Now this Dave thought these were wonderful. He was showing them around the meetings, and of course I was so chuffed that he was encouraging me and really showing the work I'd done. I thought, wow, it's amazing. So that's 5th of January 59, when things were blazing. The aurora was fantastic. I was very much getting into the aurora, and Dave realised that, and there was a junior section at the time with quite a number of young lads, 14, 15, 16-year-old. But anyway, he said to me, "Oh, Mr. Peyton, we're going to visit Mr. Peyton, would you like to join us?" Well, this was the big lads, Frank and Dave and Harry Ford. So there was me with my own notes, 59, Dave, Frank, Harry, visit Mr. Peyton. Wow, Mr. Peyton, director of the Aurora section for BAA. I mean, he was just an amazing person, director of the Balfour Stewart Aurora Laboratories in Edinburgh University, and he was a brilliant guy. He was absolutely amazing. Went up to his house, into his upper loft room where he had a plate glass windows looking northwards, and he explained as if, I remember I'm a young lad of 15 or 16 now, and he's explaining to us like we're colleagues. And it was just a revelation for me, coming from school, to have people like Dave, James Peyton, talking to you in this way. It's great. Okay. So, the first reference to Powley Observatory I found before my time, of course, in this is September 1957. I called it a bothy. It's really a sort of a pillbox, a wartime pillbox, isn't it?
I think it was a Royal Observatory place.
Ah, well, it could have been, yeah. And Powley Brae was obtained as an aurora sighting station, and observations commenced. However, work is in progress to convert the tower, now call it tower, on top of the hill into an observatory. So that was the first reference to Powley, and I'm going to hand over to Bill, because at this point Bill joined, wasn't that long after myself, Bill, but
1961.
61. So at that time,
Yes.
the Powley Observatory was starting to take off, as it were. So hand over to Bill.
Thanks.
Do we clap yet?
No. You don't clap at all, actually.
This is ice cream time. Right. Okay. Well, I, shock horror, am not a Dundonian. I'm a Farfer loon. Dundee was a distant city we visited perhaps twice a year to do a bit of Christmas shopping or something. So I wasn't aware that there was an Astronomical Society in Dundee, and even if I had been, it would have been difficult at the age of 15 to get there. However, I'd been interested in astronomy from my primary school days. In fact, my mother taught me the constellations well. The Plough, Orion, Cassiopeia, but that was pretty good. And I got myself star charts and learned all about them, ploughing a lone furrow. Managed to make telescopes. There was a friendly optician in Forfar. I must have been the pain of his life when I was scrounging lenses. You couldn't go into Specsavers and say, you got any plano-convex lenses with focal length of maybe about 3 feet? In a minute you'd get out this big box, this one looks about right. So I got a whole load of old spec lenses and made a few telescopes, and eventually I ground mirrors and built an 8-inch reflector in 1961. So there it was, me and a couple of wee lads from along the street, a couple of years younger than me, and one of them was building his own telescope, and the other one got round to it eventually as well. So that was the Forfar Astronomical Society. But I was told by a friend of my family, a father of a classmate of mine, who was quite interested in astronomy, had a 3-inch refractor. He said that the Lloyd Evans brothers from Kinnettles House, which now calls itself Kinnettles Castle, but at that time it was just Kinnettles House, there were toffs near Forfar. They were very keen on astronomy, so I, in trepidation, phoned these toffs, asked to speak to Tom, and Tom was great, and was invited to see their house, have tea with them, see their telescopes, and particularly the cameras, great meteor observers, Tom and Paul, his brother. So Tom said, you know, there's an Astronomical Society in Dundee. I'll take you along to the meetings if you like. So I thought, great, smashing. So just before we go on to the first meeting, yeah, so here are some not very well-painted faces now. That guy with the floppy hair is me. See, I had hair at one time.
How old were you then, Bill?
I was 16, I think.
Right.
Yeah, 16. This is Tom. With his eyes downcast so he wouldn't lose his dad reaction with the flash gun. Chap over here is his young brother Robert, and the very tall guy is Mike McLaughlin, one of the young lads that lived along the street from me. He'd be about 13 at that time. And this was my 8-inch reflector. Made from a discarded bit of a combine harvester. You got these things lying about in Forfar.
There's mostly potatoes up around Forfar.
There was originally an Archimedean screw inside it for throwing the corn out the top end. Government surplus elbow telescope, 7 shillings and 6pence from Charles Frank as a finder. And a yoke mount which didn't let you look at the pole. Anyway, good fun. So, the first meeting I attended was in the home of a chap called Alan Beattie, who was a physics student at Dundee University. And it was there that Tom introduced me to another guy who was there called Dave. So I met Dave at that first meeting in 1961. Now, I met him too at subsequent meetings, but it was a very small group that attended these meetings because the great schism had occurred shortly prior to my joining the society. And it took me a while to realise that there were actually 2 astronomical societies in Dundee. There was one where the head man was Harry Ford and consisted of practical people, mostly young guys, quite often badly behaved young guys, who met here. And then the learned guys who met in each other's houses and discussed physics and the like. He said, there's some guys in Dundee might take it in the BA. He said, please, yes. I mean, the pier it was on waiting about half a ton, if not more. So, fabulous telescope. I think it was by Mertz. Yeah, Mertz, one of the great refractor makers. So that was the 4 and 5/8. Anyway, back to Dave dragging us up to Powrie at dead of night, beautifully clear night, on the way home to Forfar. So Dave got the roof open, got the lens caps off the telescope, and we beheld wonders. This was absolutely amazing for us wee lads from Forfar with rickety homemade telescopes. Dave used his legendary star-hopping skills to move rapidly from one object to another in the sky. It was the first time I'd seen M81 and M82, and I distinctly remember the cigar-shaped one with its curdled appearance. You need really dark skies to see that, and the skies were dark at that time. As well as double stars, clusters, nebulae, and we lost track of time. So after dropping Dave off at his house, we drove back to Forfar, and the roads were really icy and hadn't been gritted. They hadn't invented grit at that time. And so I drove my dad's car slowly, in trepidation, and it was nearly midnight when we got back to Forfar. Of course, no mobile phones or anything to say I'll be late. So I dropped Gavine off at his house and then headed home to Bankhead Terrace with Mike. We both lived in Bankhead Terrace, and our respective dads were frantic, worrying where we got to, and worrying even more about where his car had got to. And we were both severely reprimanded, grounded for weeks. But speak about Dave leading focus straight, it was all worth it. So it wasn't long after this that I learned about the Second Astronomical Society and the 2 of them merged. So I kept in close touch with Dave. partly through interest in astronomy, but also interest in music, because Dave was very keen on music. And it was about that time that I built my first lute. I made lutes and guitars in my time. And would you believe, Dave built a lute as well. Man of many parts. Used to sing risque madrigals.
Can you still remember them?
In 1966 I went off to Edinburgh University to do my PhD in astronomy. Kept up correspondence with Dave, whose letters were invariably illuminated with hilarious cartoons, usually on terribly obscure subjects, so nobody else would see what was funny. So now over to Ken to continue the story.
Hi, Dave obviously led Bill astray, taking the way up to for hours up to the observatory. There's a wee balcony there actually. We used to go up and watch the aurora again. That was the main thing, the aurora. But when we finished actually, sometimes we'd go down to his house to listen to, that's who introduced me to Wagner. I'm a great Wagner fan. And Dave used to go down to his house, get a bottle of cheap cider and listen to Wagner.
That's so wrong in so many ways.
What an amazing guy. So here we go. A couple of pictures of Dave about the 60s era, just to show how he changed his appearances at times. I'm going to move on because Dave then moved, well, in the 70s up to Fort Augustus Abbey, and he had got his BSc. He was then teaching at various schools. Oh yeah, well, geology. Geology was a great thing, you see. Oh, heavens, geology. He taught at various schools. The stories from his various schools he put into a book called It Wasn't a Me, Sir, which is worth reading. I have a copy. He tried to get it published, but the publishers wouldn't publish because they said, you haven't developed the characters enough. He said, they're not characters, it's a true story. But it is very funny, and there are parts perhaps that they might not actually publish, when I think about it. Because Dave had a great sense of humour, but sometimes it was a bit basic. If you didn't know him, you wouldn't believe that, but yes. So, 1970, thereabout, this is him at Grove. Can you spot him? Anybody spot him? There he is. I got that picture. Now, he had all sorts of words to say about schools he taught at, and about the way that the classes he was given as a young laddie, he was given all the most difficult classes. But I'm sure he was a great teacher. And of course, where you're sitting now, he'd come and talk to us. Here he is, the teacher at work at Mills. He'd teach hard sums, and that must be about that way up there, I think, with the board, chalk, and he'd tell us all about all sorts of things, and hard sums on the screen.
With a rolled R, hard sums.
Yes, that's right, oh yes. So he tended to write in the same way as he spoke. He had this wonderful, sometimes Doric almost accent.
Aye.
But he then moved up, at that point, 1970s, up to Fort Augustus Abbey School. I've circled where his house is behind these trees. And I've been up a few times to Dave's house, and he would take me around. In fact, on one occasion he asked me to give a talk to his lads. He had an Astronomical Society up there with 2 telescopes. So I gave him a talk about galaxies. And there were actually slides that David brought back from the RAS, the Royal Astronomical Society. You couldn't get slides of galaxies and things way back then. You couldn't just pull them off the internet. You had to have a slide and put a projector. So I said to Dave when he was down there, I said, RAS, you want anything? I'll take a slide of M82, a slide of M31. So I showed them these pictures, and they showed me around the Abbey. And the thing I particularly remember, he said, oh, you must meet Father Gregory. You must meet Father Gregory. So he took me to meet Father Gregory one of these occasions, this Benedictine monk. And he had claims to see the Loch Ness Monster. So when I got there in the middle 70s, here off by Pat, he told about 1 million people about this thing he'd seen. And he was quite happy to tell me, oh yes, I went down by the jetty, just down there, down by the jetty. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, he said, Dave was looking at me, smiling, I could see him smiling. 6 o'clock in the morning, and I saw the water, it became rough and rustled, and out came this neck, he said. You see him now, 10 feet high, and the head was 8 inches across. And I remember he said it was like a horse's head, he said. Weird. So he was convinced. So we said, well, that's interesting. So off we went, Dave and I, and he says, aye, he was under communion wine last night. I mean, that's after my talk, the Heedy, I don't know if it's the Abbot or the Heedy, Dave used to call him, invited me back to say thank you for talking to the boys. And I remember this big room, and he sat there and said, would you like a drink? I said, oh, well, thank you very much. What I remember is this double, that size door, double doors. So he opens this, what would you like? And it was full from top to bottom of every kind of liqueur, whiskey, anything you could think of. I couldn't believe it. So maybe the monk was on that. So that was the fun up at Fort Augustus, and Dave stayed there till 79. In 79,
if I can break in there, Ken,
yes.
His reputation persisted after him, because when we were up at the weekend, up at Drumnadrocket,
oh yes.
Colin Steele and I went with Dave, and we dropped in at the Abbey.
Aye.
And having introduced himself, this young monkey person says, "You're Dave Gavine." Reputation obviously persistent.
So this is when he was actually proposed from the minute, I found this in the minutes, 13th of June, Dr. Dinwoodie had died, our second president. Mr. Taylor, Dave Taylor at the time was chair, proposed that the vacancy of honorary president should be filled from a list of honorary members. One name, he said, stood out from all others in close relationship and patronage, and that name was David Gavine. They proposed that Dave Gavine and Mr. Gavine be offered the honorary presidency, and this motion was passed unanimously. So that was Dave nominated and elected to the presidency, the third president of our society. Now, they gave me the job of writing to invite Dave to become president, because I was always in touch with Dave. I can't remember if I was secretary, maybe I was. Anyway, I wrote off to Dave, and he happily accepted and sent me back a letter of acceptance, which I passed on. I don't know where it is now. I must have passed it on to the chair or whoever it was at the time. His official acceptance saying thank you very much, very pleased to become president. But at the same time, he sent me an envelope, which was a second sheet of paper, which is this. That was my official letter of acceptance. This is another in Honorary from Fort Augustus School, from the Pope. Because everyone is going to like the new organ screen. So that came along with it. Now that sets the tone for the rest of this really in many ways. Because that's how I remember Dave. That's how I love to remember Dave. That's how I always will remember Dave. He was so funny.
He liked the word Ori.
Ori was a great word. But talking about being the third president, just for those who don't know, James Payton, whom I visited in '59, the great James Payton, and he was a fantastic person, was our first president. He really was great with us youngsters, with anybody. He would tell you about the Aurora, all they knew about it at the time. He died 75. Cameron Dinwoodie, he was president, of course, director of the BAA Aurora section. Cameron Dinwoodie was director of the computing section of the BAA. And he worked out cometary orbits. He was brilliant mathematician. Worked out cometary orbits, so Cameron Dinwoodie became our second president, and then of course Dave Gavine in '79 became our third. Now, because he is special, as I said to you to start with, because he was the founder member, but all of these three, indeed, very eminent people. Dave moved up to Leith Nautical College, or moved down should I say, in Edinburgh in 1979. He retired in 95, although the college, the actual nautical college closed in 84, 85, 45, something like that. But it kept on as a college, and Dave lectured at the college in various things, mathematics and all the rest, till he retired in 95. There's a picture of planetarium which they had there, at least a projector. That's about 1980. Well, that's a fantastic planetarium. He taught the navigation, astronavigation and so on there. So that was a great place. He bought a house just, I think, must be a 10 minutes walk at most here, from the Leith Nautical College, where he lived the rest of his life. I heard, in fact he said to me, and I just remember recently, I found this picture, he had a reunion at the college in 2018. I got it there? Ah, there he is. There he is. And I do remember him saying that one day, a couple of years ago, we've got a reunion at the Nautical College, at least what was the Nautical College. So, Dave Gavine, let's have a look at his achievements within the BAA, because he was a great BAA member from way, way back. And he became Assistant Director of the Aurora section to Ron Livesey in 1978, right up to 2004, when Ron decided he was getting too old and he stood down after many years. And Dave Gavine took over as Director in 2005, and he asked me if I would become Assistant Director with an interest in Noctilucent and Clouds, which I had actually, and Aurora of course, but they fascinated me anyway, so I said, oh yeah, fine, okay. So I did all the write-ups on NLC and the gathering of data, and then Dave decided to stand down in 2010 as the director, and I took over 2011, and he was retained by my assistant director, who did most of the Aurora work, and so did Ron Livesey, until 2017 when Dave stood down from the section. He was awarded the Lydia Brown Medal in 2003 for service, long service to the British Astronomical Association. So these are awards that he had. Also awarded the Lorimer Medal of the Astronomical Society of Edinburgh in 1995. Again, it's the same sort of thing as Lorimer Medal for the BAA for services to the Astronomical Society of Edinburgh. He was president from 83 to 85 and 91 to 92, and he was elected a Fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society in 1963. The additional thing that came along in 2012 was great. Rob McNaught, which you've heard of, who was working at Siding Springs, looking at NEO's near-Earth objects. He had found many asteroids and comets, and I put this in 2012. It was announced that asteroid 2120 was being called David Gavine. It's all one word, by the way, when you a named asteroid. Discovered 1989 by Rob McNaught at Siding Springs. It tells you about Dave, what he was and what he did and so on. So that was an actual entry into the BAA Journal in 2012. For another honour. Now Dave would suddenly say things and do things. He said to me in 2003, because Harry Ford and he and I had been great friends for so many years, we kept in touch. He said to me, Harry's retiring from Greenwich Planetarium, you know that? I said, oh, I heard that, Dave. He's retiring in September. How about going down and going into the very last talk he gives? Surprise him, don't tell him. We'll just go down and we'll go into the planetarium for the last talk. I said, all right, okay. So off we went down to Greenwich, was stayed in St Albans, and went down to Greenwich on the day of his retiral. It's quite funny, I was my video camera. We were all in this ante-room waiting for the astronomer to come in and say, please come into the planetarium. And Harry came in the door, like coming in there. And it was all his friends, that people that I knew, people that he knew, mainly his friends. and he was like a goldfish. He stepped out through the door. And you could see his head going from side to side, and then he pointed this way, he pointed at Dave, pointed at me, and then eventually he said, oh, okay, please come in. It was so funny. So that was Harry fought retired all day on the 19th of September 2003. We had a wee celebration afterwards. Harry's got an empty glass, yeah? We haven't got a glass at all, so you can't complain. And Dave and I spent a few days. It was great spending time with Dave because he'd have all these stories, continual lot of stories about things, all sorts of things. Serious stuff, geologies, things that were just daft, literally, and that was what he enjoyed. And you hear about Aaron St Albans having a wee refreshment on the way back, just beside the Roman remains in St Albans. Lovely little pub. So, just relaxing in St Albans. Dave, of course, was having taken up the post of director and assistant director of the BAE Aurora section, he was very fastidious about going to meetings, and the BAE have exhibition meetings every second year, and other odd meetings here and there. So Dave and I would go along to all of these. That's the first one I'd been to in 2006 at Cambridge. We set up displays of our work, and the photographs are actually quite a bit smaller than the more recent ones that we got later on. But we had various photographs from people who sent us data, Noctilucent Clouds, Aurora and so on. We relaxed in Cambridge as well, a lovely pub beside. We do a lot of this relaxing here and there. So he wasn't always seen with a cup of tea, not always.
Yeah, that's a rubbish photograph, that's no him at all, the cup of tea one.
Oh, it
You
is,
don't know
it
what
is.
was in the cup though.
No, he liked
too
his cup of tea. He liked a whiskey rather more than a beer, funnily enough, but there you go. We're a lovely pub there. The 2009 exhibition meeting at Greenwich, of course Harry was down at the south end of the country, so he came up to see us at Greenwich, and we met up with Harry. You see the pictures are getting bigger. They're getting bigger and better. I was printing them off from a printer by this time, but it doesn't. While we were there, we thought we'd make a visit to the museums in London. So, Dave and I went around London in steaming hot weather. Ended up Natural History Museum with Dave says, oh, that's not funny, as he would do. And so I took it with a elongated camera. Exhibition meeting in Manchester 2013, more and more pictures, more down here, all sorts of explanations, oh heavens. Lots of stuff going on. It got bigger and bigger, the Aurora section, because remember, it was growing, even from the time I took over. There were about 160 or more observers sending data in. And there are currently with the NLC 166 last year. So it's growing. And then the exhibition meeting in Edinburgh, some of you were there, I think, the Edinburgh meeting. I know some of you were there for certain. And then Dave's 75th birthday party. He had a birthday party on his 75th birthday and his 80th birthday, which we'll end with later. This was 2012, and we took that, still got somebody to take the picture because the three BAE Aurora section directors. And you know, looking at that picture and thinking back that neither Dave nor I would ever have thought that we would have stood in the shoes of James Peyton. When you thought how amazing James Peyton was when I was a new laddie, and it's just incredible. But that's all due to Dave's encouragement from my point of view, and Dave's drive, his own point of view.
I like your tank
That's an
in.
amazing time.
I like your tank in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah! Sarton.
Next generation.
Next generation. And we'll end up with 2018 at Tim Peake's, that's a Tim Peake exhibition. And Dave says, oh, I must get inside this spacesuit. Take a picture. Typical Dave. But this is Dave. And then a few pictures to illustrate Dave. I think this is the thing. This one I was a meeting I didn't take it, but I thought it was so funny. John Mason, you know John Mason. with a loud voice.
Oh, great.
Great character, Meteor Man, John Mason. And it just was a caption, it sent to me like that, and I thought, yeah, that's it. Then we met up with Alan Chapman in Oxford, you know, Alan Chapman, the historian. Dave and I met and had a meal with him and his wife on several occasions. This is one of them. Alan's as bad as Dave, I think. I remember the last time Alan hadn't arrived. He hadn't arrived at the place where we having our meal, and we waited outside. The next thing we saw this white-haired guy running along the road, his hair flying behind him. Sorry, I'm late. Great character.
Like the white rabbit.
And of course, I thought that was a great picture. I'm not sure whether it's a minister or a teacher, but that's a super picture. And then daft pictures which Dave would love. He'd laugh, he would laugh. Dave and Harry going native. I don't know what the occasion was, what brought that on, but it was so funny. And then Dave, on one occasion, visited on many occasions, visited my house. On this particular occasion, my daughter was about 3 years old, and they came in at Christmas time. There was Dave Taylor, there was Alan, Bill Allen. And Dave found Jones Play-Doh. Ah, look at this, he says, this is bra. And he says, I can make things with this. So he made it, just stuck it on because the rest did the same. So this is typical. Dave could see something. He could see something and suddenly it sparked something in his mind. And
Ken, could you go back 1 minute? Look at these. Check the legs out.
I don't think we want that pointed out actually.
Harry was not not a tall man.
So that was Dave. Bill Allen, of course, from New Zealand, who is Harry's cousin. This is one I must show you. It's a wonderful letters which I thought was very funny, and I think it typifies Dave's humour. I looked through a lot of his letters after he passed away, and this one just made me crack up. I'll read it to you. For you now, forget it, but for you now I enclose pictures. He wrote as he spoke, of Morgan taken off TV, as clean as Highlands reception will allow. Also aid either a wantonness and twa Maister Jack. Tell him that unless a small consideration is forthcoming, e.g. £1,000 cash or introduction to hot female, copies will be sent to the Lord Provost, Pope, Moderator, Queen, and he led the BB, because Jack was a BB officer. The pictures are there. So that's Dave's humour. That sums him up for me. That's just the way he was. He was so funny. Of course, it was a time for daft photographs of one sort or another in society, with all sorts of daft photographs. And this story I did tell actually. What's wrong with this? Strange. I did tell actually at the funeral, but it's worthwhile. Dave was at our house one day. If you weren't there, you wouldn't have heard it, but he was at the house and he says to me, he says to General, oh, I'll have to go to Cludgy. Now, for those who are Scottish, you know what Cludgy is. It's the toilet. A lot of them from down south didn't have a clue what it was. And off he went, and in the Cludgy, in the toilet, he spied out little mats, black mats with fringes round about them. Little black thready fringes. They also did little carpets, rugs around the toilet and around the washing basin. Thinks Dave, ha, I could do something with that, obviously. So he gets, I don't know how he removed them, I've no idea. I don't know yet how he removed them, but he removed a few tufts of this black stuff. The next thing, he bursts into the living room. Takes on the new room.
This is a private society. What happens here?
His favourite photograph of himself, he liked that photograph, he wanted it used. I have to agree, I think it's a great photograph. But I can't end without a personal tribute. The tribute that I sort of concocted up, a wee photograph, and then after that I've got a little video of his 80th birthday party, which Alec Pratt sent me. It lasts for 4 or 5 minutes or so, but I think you'd like to see it, because we'll let Dave have the last word, and it will be typically him. I can hear him laughing when I show this. This is one I concocted. And that says, thank you, Dave, for the guidance and courage and knowledge you passed on, because of you and I and many others.
He looks uncannily like the character.
It is. Well, that's his, I just put that on, and it looks just like him, doesn't it? I actually used private pikes.
Scary.
It is, because that was his favourite. People used to say for a certain period of time when he looked that way, they said, do your doomsday, I am doom. So there we go. Let me just put on this little video which will show Dave, and you'll recognise the character. I'll have to